Okay. Call to order. Call to order the meeting of the Greater Boca Raton Beach and Park District. Steve, it's Steve. July 10th at 5:15. Steve, can you please mute yourself? Thank you.
I thought I was. Sorry.
Nope, we're good now. Or no, we're not. Oh, you're on your phone. You got to mute your phone, Steve. Okay. Okay. Do the roll call, please.
Commissioner Engel,
Here.
Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright, and Commissioner Ernst. Commissioner Ernst is attending via Zoom, and he is here tonight.
Any changes to the agenda? Nope. Nope. Okay, we'll open it up to public requests.
My name is Harold Chappie, 6200 Northwest Second Avenue, and the president of Keep Golf in Boca. You know, I guess why I'm here basically is I was going over a lot of different things about what's happening in the city. And there's a lot of things that are undecided. You know, I know they're going to do it. They're going to change town hall, the center, like town hall is. They're going to get rid of the tennis courts. They're going to get rid of the shuffleboard. They're going to make a lot of changes. We still don't know what's happening with the golf course and what they're going to be doing over there, what they inherited. We don't know what's going to happen to the 3 parcels that are on the corner of Boca Chica, or Ocean Breeze. And I think it's very inappropriate to even think about a name. You know, if we went with a name, we'd be taking the Boca National sign off the front of the building, off the corner of Second Avenue in Yamada. I think it's, we need to get hold of the city and discuss things and find out where we're going. Otherwise, everything that you do they're not going to do anything. Everything's going to be a bottleneck. You know, it's just so many things in the air, and I think we have to, like you said, we have to have a meeting and discuss it and bring it out in the open and discuss what everybody's going to be doing here. We'll put all the pieces together in the puzzle. You know, I can't even figure it out. I have no idea what the hell is going to go on or whether they're going to accept anything that you're going to do. Yeah, there has to be a buy-in. All right. Thank you. Oh, by the way, happy 4th, belated. Take care. Bye.
Anybody else?
Hello, Angelo Sands, 7348 East Country Club Boulevard, Boca Raton, Florida. Couple items. Number one, I can't even believe we're wasting time as far as the name for that place. It's Ocean Breeze. I mean, we got enough things going on. We got to worry about a name. About 2 months ago, I sent a packet to every member, the mayor, city council, and Beach and Parks, talking about John Prince Golf Learning Center. And, we spend a lot of money trying to figure out the best thing to do when that learning center has won every award that you can win. And it's a great learning center, and it's run by the county. It's run by the county. That's the only way any kind of a learning center we have is going to make it in the long run. Because it's going to be affordable. Hopefully what you do is you pay just enough to break even. What we have at the various clubs, as far as junior golf is concerned, they're very, very good programs, but they're very, very expensive. And they wipe out a lot of the kids that would want to get involved with golf. They can't. And so, like I said, this packet that I sent to all of you a couple months ago, I just got a new packet that I put in tonight on your desks. And I'm also going to get it to the city council for For the first time, off-course golfers exceed the number of on-course golfers in the United States. This is from Golf Digest. That means that if you look at everything besides regular golf courses, you look at Topgolf, you look at driving range, you look at par threes, more people are there than on regular golf courses. And some of you that were here 8 years ago when we started this, know I was against that, okay? But times and situations change. And, you know, to be successful, you got to move with the changes. And the bottom line is that that's what's going on. And this was compiled by the National Golf Federation. Here is a listing of all of the facilities that, and it's in both your packets, the one I sent a month ago and the one on your desk now. And when you look at the locations, you really see there's hardly anything as far as Boca is concerned. I've had some parents call me up because they know I'm involved with the affordable golf idea of this parcel of land. They're driving to Wellington for their kids to play in like tournaments, Wellington. I talked to one parent that they had to make 2 trips to Wellington because their kid was playing in 2 different events. And that's the type of thing that's going on, because you can't find a place to play in Boca. And if you do, it's too expensive. You know, so, you know, the bottom line is what I've always, and, you know, the new golf course, you know, that's the city's a bit, I don't care what they charge there, you know, to break even, that's their business. But that parcel of land that was golf as far as Ocean Breeze is concerned, and if that's being saved for golf, for juniors, for kids, for older people, for beginners, then let's do it right. And we don't need a study. You just got to drive up the road to Lake Worth and look at probably one of the finest facilities for these people that I've just mentioned. And I think that is the direction to go. And I guess I'm out of time. Am I? Oh, I got 40. Geez, oh man. I went really, really fast because I wanted to get everything in. But yeah, I mean, the whole world of golf is changing. The day of a person going out and playing 18 holes, those days are over. You know, that's a 5, 6, 7 hour day, as opposed to going to a training center, going to a learning center where you can beat some balls, you can chip and putt, you can play a few holes. That's the future of golf. Every major facility in the world has a par 3 or an executive course alongside of it now. They get the future. Thank you so much. We had a great 4th of July party, by the way. Fantastic. Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anybody online raising their hand? Nope. All righty. We will close public requests. And we will do approval of the minutes of the previous board meeting on June 20th at 5:15.
Move to approve. Commissioner Ernst? Okay. Commissioner Engel? That's a yes. Commissioner Rollins? Commissioner Vogelsang? Yes. Commissioner Wright?
I was not here, so I should still vote. Okay, then yeah.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, regular business, the cell tower at Sugar Sand Park, Brian.
Commissioners, on page 5 of your agenda packets is a brief look at where a future cell phone tower may work at Sugar Sand, but we have Michael Hahn here from Hahn Towers. He's going to present some information that each of you were handed out, and I've sent some electronic copies to Commissioner Ernst and Commissioner Engel so they can follow along, and then we'll answer your questions.
Thank you, Brianne.
we'll just need you got the microphone on.
Microphone still on? Says it's green. Hello, as you said, my name is Michael Hahn. I represent Hahn Towers, and my job is I talk with all the different carriers and they let me know where coverage problems are. And one of those problems has been identified in and around Sugar Sand Park. And so I'm here to discuss the possibility of constructing a cell tower and compound inside Sugar Sand Park. The handout that I sent over shows an aerial view and a location picked out. This location can be shifted around per your liking. We kind of could pick any spot in Sugar Sand Park because the area we're trying to cover is all around the park. Palmetto, Camino, all the surrounding neighborhoods, not just Sugar Sand Park itself. So we're trying to actually cover the population as well. There's this dead zone that's been identified by several cellular companies. As part of our zoning application, we provide a full, it's called an RF study, where the radio frequency engineers show the levels of coverage and why your call drops while you're driving along Palmetto, that sort of thing. But this was just a quick intro to gauge interest in the possibility of leasing space within the park in order to build a cell tower to cover this need. And this first page shows the spot. It's in tract A so that we're out of the environmental areas. The second page in the handout shows that red circle is a 1 mile radius. And you can see there's really nothing, the big red dots on there, those are existing towers. And the only one within that mile radius, which is, again, kind of a standard of coverage, is the Calvary Church. You know, the Calvary Church cross, it's a stealth cross. It's kind of short. And so it has a limited coverage area. We're trying to, again, coverage the entire area within this red circle. So there's a need. There's not a whole lot of infrastructure in that area. The next page, it comes down to what kind of tower to build so that it looks nice, it's appealing, but yet it provides the sort of coverage that we need. This first page are existing towers. You might recognize them from along Dixie Highway and the railroad tracks, the FEC railroad tracks. These are called self-supports. They're not very good looking. So I want you to make sure that you're not worried. We're not interested in building anything like that. We're looking to build something that's a lot more appealing. And what we're trying to gauge is what kind of tower could we build that works for the carriers as well. We did build a tower already off of Southwest 18th Street in Alamanda Park. It's not really a park, but it's called Alamanda Park. We're back there in the woods. It's a stealth tower. It's worked out very well. It was a pleasure working with the city of Boca Raton. We leased a 50-foot by 50-foot area. And that tower's been online now for a while. T-Mobile's on it, Verizon's on it, and we're hoping to get AT&T on there soon. The only issue there is that all the antennas are internal. It's a pole with internal antennas. As we work along this, what I'd like to try and find out, is there any design that we could come up with where the antennas aren't internal? Because as you can imagine, in South Florida, it gets really hot in there. And so it limits the number of antennas that can point in any certain direction because only one fits behind that screen. And it gets very hot, as I said, in there. So all the radios and the antennas heat up and have problems, and it shortens the amount of area they can cover. So where I have this monopole type of towers, it just kind of shows you, this is a stealth tower that we built along Sawgrass Expressway, as just before you hit the curve, if you're heading west on Sawgrass Expressway. And this is a stealth shield. Obviously, it doesn't have to have crosses on it. This is at Park Ridge Church, so we have crosses on that, but this at least hides the antennas. The second one is just a standard monopole. We're not really applying for this. This is something you see all over. This gives the greatest flexibility. The antennas stay cool. You can hang multiple antennas. We're actually hoping for something closer to this. It's called a close mount, where the mounts are very close to the pole, so that it's not some big, wide, expansive thing with antennas and wires hanging off it. It's a very neat, the antennas are right next to the pole so that they can ventilate. You can point them in any direction. They don't overheat in South Florida, something along that. If we can kind of head in that direction. And again, that's where some back and forth is, what might be acceptable and what might work for you. The other pages I have on here, this is from our tower that we built in Alamanda Park, just to give you an idea what goes into the compound once it's built inside the park. This shows the landscaping. We landscape a 10-foot buffer around the compound, even though the spot we picked out in Sugar Sand is going to be in the middle of the woods. If you ever use that area down the road, if you ever build out that way, part of the zoning is that we have to have landscaping around it. So it'll be fully landscaped and hidden. And to show what it looks like, this is again the Alamanda Park site. This is the outside. This is just the gate showing some of the landscaping, the green wall that hides the equipment. This is the inside. So you can just see it's just basic gravel with the equipment inside there. And lastly, just to show you how it's all hidden behind landscaping, you can see this is actually looking right at the compound. It's fully landscaped. It's fully hidden behind nice palm trees. That clusia, however you pronounce it, is all over. So we really hide the compound back in there. So it comes down to, is there a location that would be acceptable to build a cell tower to meet the need of wireless coverage? And what would it look like? And so this was the kickoff to see your thoughts and ideas on being able to lease space inside Sugar Sand Park.
So where the location is right now, is it off like a little trail so that there's access for the gate?
That's why I selected that spot, because there's already some sort of a maintenance trail that you have in the park where the paved road dead ends. And then it looks like that area is a trail that feeds back to this utility line. You can see the utility that runs east-west. Those big power lines. And so I just picked that spot so that we wouldn't have to blaze a new trail through the trees. We just use the existing one and peel off of there.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then we're right along that utility easement. So then for power, we just need two things, power and fiber. So we would pull off that utility easement.
The closed mount pole, does that give good coverage? Like, is it gonna get to that 1 mile radius that you're looking for?
That in the height. And so we're asking, just like the one at Alamanda Park, we're asking for 140 feet. And one thing to consider about the height is that it's not just 140 feet with one carrier. The idea is that all carriers, each carrier has their own installation. So at 140, you might have somebody like a T-Mobile, and then 10 feet, every 10 feet is another carrier. So 140 is T-Mobile, 130 is Verizon,
So-
120 is AT&T.
Oh, so these will be like,
That has.
whatever these are called. Yeah, so those will be up and down based on how many carriers you have on the pole.
Correct. This shows two carriers. So you have one carrier at the top and then another carrier right below it. But that's how they do it. They just do one down the pole. And right now there are basically 4 major carriers. So a fully loaded pole would have 4 of those installations.
And then the monopole, is it just that one on the top?
That's one. Yep. That's one carrier there.
And you saying these stealth panels that even have the crosses, those are not ventilated at all?
They're ventilated.
These ones are?
Yeah. Yes. They're open on the top and the bottom.
Okay, and what about the reception or the
That's
coverage
good.
with these?
Yes, that's preferred to what's called what we built over in Alamanda Park is called a unipole. It just looks like one solid pole, or they're over at Boca West too. There's like smokestack looking things or a flagpole, that kind of a thing. This actually has ventilation, so it's definitely an option.
Mm-hmm.
It's one that we've had success with. It's just that sometimes it can be a little larger because you do have now a screen that goes all the way across all the antennas.
Right.
If that's okay, you can go that route. I'm trying to see if this close mount is a good idea, because then that just kind of tightens everything up and makes it even smaller on the pole. And this, you're kind of zoomed in here on this pole. When you're driving down the road and it's way off in the distance, it's even smaller. I often have to tell people what I do, and I point to a tower that, they've never seen it before, even though they drive by it every day. So, just trying to shrink the size of it.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
For coming. I do have some questions that I'd like to involve our attorney, our counsel, Jacob Horowitz. You keep mentioning leases, and you are aware that we are not allowed to lease our property. So Jacob, would you jump in there?
Thank you, Commissioner. Good evening, Mr. Hahn.
Good evening.
Yeah, and you had indicated the potential for a lease at Sugar Sand, and we certainly work with a lot of cell tower providers with a number of our public clients, and we're familiar with the cell tower leasing process. In my experience, at least, it typically does involve a lease agreement or some interest in real property. Do you know whether you and your firm are able to enter into some type of relationship short of a lease that would involve either a license agreement or some type of easement that the district, if the board or commission was interested, might be willing to grant some rights short of a property interest in the form of a lease?
Yes, an easement agreement can
Okay.
be done.
I
And,
know that the FCC has some jurisdiction when it comes to cell tower leases. Would they accept anything short of a lease that you're aware of, or any other regulatory agency? Would they accept something short of a lease? I just don't know the answer.
Yes, no, the FCC is more about the radio waves and what are you putting on the tower and that sort of thing. The ground lease, the underlying ground lease or easement is not something
less
that
interested.
typically they're concerned with. And yes, easements are used quite a bit for cell tower for the same reason that you have. You don't want to give up some sort of lease or control of the property. An easement fits in better with your charter.
Yeah,
that
we
sort
just have some constraints given our enabling legislation, but
Sure.
if the board was interested, we could certainly work within your parameters.
Yes, yes, so easement is definitely an option.
This is a question for Brianne. And it was mentioned, Mr. Hahn mentioned about the environmental area there. In the diagram, you have the little checkered marks that go around the property, and where the tower is situated is in between the dark line and the checkered line. Is that, are these areas been checked out so it's not environmental?
It's just not, okay, there we go. It's brand new. Yeah, I sent Mr. Hahn a copy of the plat, so he was working within those parameters on the tract A where we can add this.
Well, I noticed and it was mentioned that, you know, the trail that goes through there, would that be disturbed to any degree when you're putting up the tower or bringing in the equipment at all?
We would make the trail a little more substantial because you do have to bring in some cement trucks and that sort of thing for the foundation. And it's been my experience that it quickly gets overgrown. Everything grows like crazy around here, especially all the wild plants. So we would actually probably have to work to keep it open a little bit to get in.
When-
Once it's built, you're talking about pickup trucks and things like that coming in to work on the radius.
Does that require it to be a hard surface for the trucks to come in and out, or is it, can it just be, you know, the regular gravel road that, or trail that's in there now?
I believe it can be a gravel road. There are some zoning issues with the fire department. They have to have a certain surface so that they can get back there with a fire truck. And so we'd have to make sure we meet the zoning criteria,
Okay.
but I don't think it necessarily has to be a paved road.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just want to be sensitive to that area back in there, because at one time we did have plans for that quadrant there. And we had to move it over to where the sugar sand, where the carousel was. And that we were talking about putting in a water park, and that the city told us that that quadrant there in the northwest section up there was environmentally sensitive. So I assume that hadn't changed, knowing the city's environmental department. But I just want to be sure that, you know, everyone's aware that we have some sensitivity there, and you know, I don't have any objection to if we can do it within our legal boundaries, you know, of our enabling legislation. And you know, the close mount seems to be one that is, I assume, was a little preference to Mr. Hahn. Is that, did you have a preference on the type of?
I think a close mount would kind of hedge in the middle between having something that's stealthy so that it's not like that regular monopole with antennas hanging off it. But yet it allows for future expansion. And again, one of the issues with that unipole design where everything's enclosed is that was designed with certain criteria, certain antennas, certain technologies. And as technologies progress, now you have radios that are attached to antennas and generating heat, you know, things change. And so it's kind of nice to not have that enclosure that limits you to, you know, what's coming in the future when you have 5G, 6G, 7G, you know, the shapes of antennas, sizes, and heat dissipation, that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
it's preferred to be outside.
Well, without talking about what's the money, what's the comeback there on the lease on the exchange?
Well, what we do with the city is that we went through basically presented what are the different leases, current market value of leases, and we go through a whole process to show that what we're offering in our ground lease is as good or better. In this case, with Alamanda, it was much better than the current ground leases out there. So we go through a whole appraisal process before as part of the zoning process to get an approval.
Thank you.
As Bob brought up a question that, or a statement, city approval. Do you have to go through permitting, and is that what you did at Alamanda?
Yes.
Permitting and everything?
Yes, we go through zoning approval. And then as in conjunction with zoning approval, then we also went through the leasing part of it for the ground lease. And this is a little different in that it's Parks is in charge of it. So I believe we, again, I have to learn myself. I think we'd be going through the leasing portion with you for the ground and the zoning portion with the city. And I do have a call with the city on Friday to discuss the zoning portion, to talk about what needs to be done there and how the whole process works.
The Alamanda one is the one referenced in that agreement that I sent out last week with the city. It's on city property off 18th and 95.
And if I may be so bold, what's the cost of building this type of a structure?
Well, it's getting higher and higher and higher. So back several years ago, you could build something, you'd budget around 300,000 for a regular type of monopole. And, now you can get up closer to 700,000 to build something. And that's just the structure, building it, and the structure and the steel and the cement and all that. So like everybody else in the building industry, we're victims of all the inflation and price increases and money rates and prime rates and all that kind of stuff. So it's getting higher. The quicker we can build it, the better before the prices go up.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
I can go ahead.
Okay, yep, go ahead.
All right. Couple of questions. First, I know at least downtown, there's a height limitation. I don't know if it applies here. I would think it does. Have you had to get a variance before? And if necessary, can you get a variance now? Because if I'm not mistaken, I think the height limitation is 110 or 120 feet for buildings. I don't know if it applies to antennas, but I think it's something.
Commissioner Engel, he already has one approved in the city because it's a separate code for this than for buildings.
Okay.
And we do go through the whole process to make sure that it fits within zoning code. If this particular zone in the park requires a variance, then we go through the variance process as well. And that's where a lot of the documentation comes in to show what the different height of the tower, how large an area it can cover. So if we are only able to build 100 feet, it doesn't reach the target audience that we're trying to cover. It doesn't reach the population. If we're able to build 140, now it's worth building. We're covering everybody in the city. So we show all that in our maps and propagation studies and that sort of thing. So we go through the full process, and that's what our meeting on Friday is about, to start to discuss that process of what zone is this considered in, what's the maximum height, do we need variances, that sort of thing.
Okay, and my next question is, insofar as the revenue that's involved, because we can't have a lease, how do we work out the revenue insofar as for an easement or however we need to set it up? Because if there's a transfer of funds, now it looks like.
Commissioner
Yeah, go
Engel,
ahead.
we'll probably do something similar like we did the easement where we were able to get some funds for Ocean Strand. So we'll be able to work out some terms differently. I think Jacob.
Okay. All right. That's all I needed. Thank you.
Can you hear me, Brian, on your phone?
Yeah, I can. Let me see if everybody else can hear you. Yep. Okay, go ahead.
First of all, I apologize for the connectivity issues. My fault. I should have checked it beforehand. Secondly, regarding the tower, I would say I absolutely understand the need. I live in the area, been living there for the past 20 plus years. So I understand the need. However, I'm not sure about the appearance. And I think the two questions Mr. Hahn has brought up is, could we work out something, and the appearance, and location and appearance. And I have some concerns about the location in any of the vegetative areas. So the first question I'd have related to that would be, could he or has he considered attaching or creating a tower near an existing ball field light pole, which would be less obtrusive to the community from seeing it? Towers are already there, so we could do something like that. So that's one consideration. My second question is more for our, council, is if we're doing something like this, it seems to me we should follow a normal RFP process. I appreciate the idea, but other cell phone towers should, I think we as a process have to follow that unless there's some kind of exception to it. And so I'd like to confirm how that would work.
I'd like to speak to that second one first, because that's something that we did discuss with the city in this first tower, and the RFP process works typically if the city has a need, identifies a need, and then goes out for bid to satisfy that need. With this tower, since we're coming to the city to say we would like to lease space on this property and build the site, as part of the industry, it's one of those closely kept secrets of where is the tower, where do you need to build the tower? And it's been my experience that if you end up going through all this and jumping through all the hoops, so at the end, it's just released as, okay, all this has been done. Now who wants to be the highest bidder to throw some money at it? It really upsets the apple cart. And what you end up with is that the carriers are then held hostage by whoever threw their money at it, because they know there's a need. They found out through the RFP that there's a need instead of through normal channels. And now they've thrown money at it, and they hold up the property, and then they charge as much as they possibly can to the carriers to substantiate the bid that they threw in to grab it. So it's one of those things where, we work it as I'm coming to you with a proposal to try and lease the space. The RFP is something that we actually really wouldn't be interested in if at the end of the road here, it's just broadcast to all our competitors and everyone who's got some sort of construction company that wants to take a crack at building a cell tower. That's something that we didn't do with the first Boca Tower, and we really wouldn't want to do that with this one. But as far as the light in the ball field, that is something we would consider, and that's something that we'd love to take a look at. Would probably want that ball field that's farthest away from the Calvary Church, just because the Calvary Church does provide a certain amount of coverage. So we're not trying to duplicate that coverage. We're trying to enhance that coverage and get a little farther away from the existing antennas. But yes, a light pole over in that corner, I think would do fine. It's something that I have to run by the RF engineers, but definitely a consideration.
Any other questions, Craig?
Craig? I think he's gonna get on the phone. Yeah.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm good. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
So for the purposes of tonight, commissioners, we're just looking for direction from you if you want to have me start working with legal and talking to Hahn Towers, or if you would like to take some other action.
I guess I'd have to ask Jake about the RFP process, if that's something that we would have to engage in, or is there a need for us to do that?
Commissioner, and, typically in these instances, when you're dealing with the city, there's the city's procurement code, which may have some requirements for competitive bidding. There's not a statutory requirement that I'm aware of that would apply to districts as it relates to this type of bidding process. But Mr. Hahn is correct. This is not a situation where we have a need and we're going out to procure a service. This is a situation where somebody is coming to the district asking for some consideration. And Brianne reminded me, much like we did with the easement on Ocean Strand, where you had a private individual, private firm who was looking for some consideration to use a portion of capacity on a limited basis. This would be a little more context of a structure. That easement would be no different.
Yeah, I mean, we're not the ones building the tower. They are. So it's not like we're building the structure. They're building the structure and just creating the easement and then basically renting the land. Yeah, no, I just want Craig to know too, that the RFP is for jobs that we're doing, right? I mean, right?
Typically,
Yeah.
when we have a need for a good or a service, we would go out to bid for that particular item.
Really want to say that, I'm interested in pursuing this. There's some financial benefit to us for having done so. And, with ad valorem revenue only goes so far. So if we can strike a deal, I'd be interested in pursuing it.
Ken?
Sure, I'll make the motion that the district pursue the opportunity of putting a tower through. Do I need to indicate Han and your?
This discussion, Commissioner, it sounds like this would really be just direction to the executive director to work with your general counsel's office to come back with a proposal for you to consider.
Do you need a second for that? I'm just kidding.
That was that would work in the form of a motion, Commissioner.
Uh,
That would be your motion. I would ask the chair to ask for a second.
that is my motion.
Second.
Okay. Did you want any further discussion?
So. Communication but not participate in RFP, may or may not. But wouldn't it be everyone to get the best idea of a title? Best proposal.
That's part of the appraisal process where we bring in all of the different leases that are available in cities and areas and that sort of thing. So you can see what the going rate is. And I would say that the lease that we did with the city of Boca Raton ended up being the most expensive one we've ever done. So, that is kind of the competitive process of we show that appraisal of what the going rate is for these towers. And as far as how it looks and everything else, that's another thing that we go through. There are several different, the Community Appearance Board, obviously, your Greater Parks Board to determine what's acceptable, what looks the best and what handles coverage for the area. So a lot of that's kind of baked into the cake.
Madam Chair, I just make one
In
comment.
general, my thought is, okay to further explore it. I don't think it's a good idea to carve out a piece along Palmetto Park where it's going to be visible. So I think it's okay to explore it. We still cannot rely on a vendor, whether it's Han or anyone else, to make a fiduciary decision that is best on it. I would say consider exploring it. We have to do our own due diligence of what is a reasonable fair amount, and that may end up with a single source direction towards Mr. Hans or Han Communication. But there's other additional work that needs to be done. And the question is this the time for us to do it or not? Does our staff have time for it? And I'm okay with proceeding and exploring it, but I am not okay with giving direction with, I guess the motion including single sourcing it to home.
You have a second on.
I have a second, so wait, did you have further comment? Bob?
Yeah, I just, it's not unusual in the insurance industry to have one single source, but yet that single source does the research and presents to the client the other opportunities that are out there. I mean, I do that all the time. With client loyalty, I'll go to market and do my fiduciary responsibility to my client to show them what other pricing in the market might happen to be. And it sounds to me like that's comparable to what Mr. Hahn is referring to. And that being the case, I tell you, it's a whole lot better as a client dealing with one broker who's brought to the market those different quotes and then having the individual insured make a decision based upon the selection of the most competitive, and in this case here, the one that generates the most revenue to us. So I'm comfortable with the motion that was made by that I made earlier, thanks to council.
The way that the motion was worded, it really was direction to your executive director. There was no particular firm or vendor that was involved in that. It was more of an opportunity for the director to explore. And I know that she was reluctant to take a further look at the issue without knowing how the board would feel given this evening's discussion.
Any further discussion, Steve? Are you good to go? Okay. All right, so we'll do roll call, Joanne?
Commissioner Ernst? Commissioner Engel? Yes. Commissioner Rollins?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright? Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, moving on to number 2, amendment to fast dry agreement. Page 7.
Mercury in retrograde or something. I don't know. Amendment to the fast dry agreement is on page 7 of your agenda packets. Commissioners, back in June of 2022, you all discussed and voted on a project to redo all the tennis courts here at the Racket Center, as well as replace and refurbish some lighting and add lighting to courts. We thought that project would be about 6 months. So when we put out the RFP, we had 2 payments and then a final payment in that agreement. The project is still ongoing, so it's been over a year. They're asking for another partial payment. We would hold back the final payment. The project is going into the punch list section, so it's almost wrapped up, but we'd like to amend the agreement to give them another partial payment. So just looking for a motion tonight to approve that amendment to the agreement.
Move to approve.
It's for discussion.
Any comments, discussion?
Just the question in the agreement. I understand that we want to do another partial payment, but what is the amount of that partial payment? We're not going to, the way I read this description, it sounded like we would end up, if we did 50% down, we've already paid 25%. If we did another 25%.
We're holding back another 120,000,
Okay.
110,000 for the final payout. So this is just I don't have the total amount, but we've paid the 2 payments already. So we paid 50, we paid another 25% of the 50 that was left. Now we're looking to pay another portion, and then we'll hold back 110,000 for the final punch list. It was a 1.1. Was the total project. Yes.
All right. So
It's not written out for payment. Oh, you have the check in there.
$248,325.
that's what I wanted to know. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Yeah, we have a second thought. Okay. Smiling. No, he's good. Okay, go ahead.
Commissioner Ernst. That's a yes. Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, moving on to number 3, Patchogue Park pickleball.
Commissioners, on page 10 of your agenda packets, you'll see brief memo about the Patchogue pickleball courts. At our previous meeting, Commissioner Ernst requested that we look into the possibility of converting 2 more tennis courts into 6 additional pickleball courts to give us 12 courts out there now, because the 18 court complex is taking much longer than we anticipated to go through site plan approval. Melissa and I met with city staff. We verbally heard that it was okay. We also have emails that they are 100% behind this conversion. It would alleviate some of the scheduling issues with pickleball, and it does not impact the tennis players. So tonight we're just asking for approval to move forward, and we would have to bid this out, take about 4 months. There's no permitting because we're just converting courts. There's a permit for fencing, but not for the bulk of it. So we should get it done. We're anticipating the cost to be somewhere around $60,000 for the conversion.
So it should be done by season.
Yes,
Sure.
but don't hold me to it.
For Melissa, after we do get our other pickleball courts finished, what is the cost going to be to turn the temporary courts back into tennis courts?
Part of the whole bid package is to resurface all the tennis courts. So that's included in the project that we bidded out. We're already resurfacing all of them out there, including these that we're converting. So that'll be part of it.
I mentioned when we were talking about this, I'm in favor of the project, but I also want to suggest that it's to put these tennis courts back when the other facility opens up, and so that we separate the tennis from the pickleball. I think that I'm not a pickleball aficionado, but I understand it's a little louder than tennis, and I'd rather have pickleball where we've got 18 courts and confined over there, and then put the courts back for tennis the way they were before we put them into pickleball.
That's the project that we submitted. I don't want to go back through site plan approval to change that. So we're sticking with it.
Okay, so you with the site plan
We-
approval, it
yes.
went that way. Well, thank you for outthinking me on that, Brienne. Then I'll make the motion that we move forward with the recommendation to convert 2 tennis courts into 6 pickleball courts at the Patchogue Tennis Center.
You're gonna excuse me. Commissioner Ernst. Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright. Motion passes unanimously.
Moving on to number 4, new park name discussion. Brian.
Okay. Perfect timing. Is it something we should stop for? Oh, okay. All right. All right. So moving on, the park naming process. At our last meeting, it was agreed that you all would consider names. We have never named this park. I realized the community is attached to the name of the old golf course that was there, but we never officially decided that was going to be the name of the park. So tonight you were given the names that you've already considered: Crossroads, Ocean Breeze, another one submitted by Boca Chica residents was North Park. So those are all on your list. So I am happy to take your rankings and do the tally and let the name speak for itself, if that's what you want to do.
Chair, I had a text from Jen Eklund about this very subject that she wanted to speak before we did the ranking. Is there a chance you could open public requests back up for her? Because she couldn't get through.
Stephen Craig. Yes or no?
You're on this mic with my phone, Craig.
What's the question?
The question is, do we want to reopen public comment? Somebody that wants to comment on this item did not get the opportunity to speak during public comment.
I have no objection.
Well, that's 3. So we'll go ahead and open it up.
Ms. Eklund, if you'll unmute yourself and state your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
Can you hear me now? Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Wonderful. Regina Eklund, 5201 Northwest 2nd Avenue. I was at the previous meeting where you were considering the name for the Ocean Breeze property. A little levity with the technical difficulties tonight because there is some incredible solar flare activity and we're going to have really great northern lights up here in Minnesota. I think that's our technical problem, but moving on. The golf course at Ocean Breeze was closed well over 6 years, if my memory serves me correctly. Since that time, it's been referred to as the Old Ocean Breeze Golf Course, the Old Ocean Breeze property, the Boca Chica property. I want to say this, not to offend anyone on the Beach and Park District. And I'm not lying blame at your feet. When I say what I'm going to say and I refer to as they, I do not mean you, because a lot of this happened before this property even came into your possession. But they took away the tennis courts. They took away the hotel, the meeting rooms, the library, the pool at the inn. They took away the golf course. They took away the driving range. They took away the cart barn. They took away the clubhouse. They took away the restaurant. The only thing we have left is the name Ocean Breeze. So I'm asking the board to consider, the commissioners to consider not taking that away. Ocean Breeze is a great name. It is a beautiful name. It beautifully describes the area, Ocean Breeze. For the few of us that are around that still remember when it was a beautiful golf course and a beautiful property, it's a great memory. For those who don't, it's still a beautifully descriptive name. So I am asking the board, as you consider the naming of the golf course, to consider keeping the name Ocean Breeze. It has merit. It's a great name. I know for a fact all of the residents in the area would greatly appreciate that. It's the last thing we have left. Don't take it away. Thank you very much.
And that's it. Comment. So we'll go ahead and we'll do our rankings, I think. Steve, can you hear me? You gotta hold on.
I can hear you fine, but I can't seem to find the ranking list in my agenda packet.
It's not in the agenda packet. It was via email.
That would explain it. Hold on a second.
Do you want me to just give
Yeah.
them to you? Or
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the names were Ocean Breeze, Peace
Okay.
Park,
Uh-huh.
the Crossroads, Coastal Trails, and North Park. Those are the 5 names that we were supposed to rank.
Okay,
So you give your number 1 choice, number 1, down to 5.
okay. First one is East Park. Second one is North Park.
And hold on, there's no East Park.
Isn't that what you said?
No, it's North Park, Peace Park.
Peace Park, okay. All right, I seem to remember that. All right.
Okay.
Okay, North Park is number one. Crossroads is number two. I can tell you right now, Peace Park is number five. Coastal Trails is number three and Ocean Breeze is number four. To all the Boca Chicans who really like the name, I heard what you, and I've read what you sent me, but this is something completely new. It's not unlike anything that we had there previously, so I thought a new name might be more in order. So with my apologies, those are my rankings.
Thanks, Steve. Craig, do you want to go ahead?
Okay, number one is Crossroads. Number two is North Park. Number three is Ocean Breeze. Number four is Coastal Trails, and number five is Peace Park.
You. Bob?
I have to be a contrarian here. I'm not sure why we're even naming the park this early in the process. And, you know, I think that the fact that we have a huge parcel that's undeveloped, that we don't know what's going to go on there. And we don't know about some of the names, Crossroads. Let's say that the city finds a way to snatch the west part of the property away from us. Some of these names would then be irrelevant. And then if we did a training center, a golf facility, like Angelo mentioned on the other part of on the northwest court part, there's another name that you might want to put up there with that. So I'm of the opinion that we're premature with this. If I'm compelled to give the list, am I compelled to do that, Jake?
Certainly not required to. That's the process I think that the board had previously agreed on. If you are not prepared to give your recommendations or your rankings, you're certainly not, I can't compel you to do that.
Well, the ranking I would give, there's really only two names on there that I think are that really give us an idea of that destination. One is Ocean Breeze, because it's a name that's well known. People know where Ocean Breeze is, and I think I agree with Regina Eklund that that's doesn't mean that it's has a stigma attached to it because it was a failed golf course. I think it's just a recreational direction that people know where Ocean Breeze is, especially the folks that live in that territory. That would be my first selection. North Park would be my second, and the other three are throwaways as far as I'm concerned. I can't vote for them.
Okay. Number one and North Park number two.
Right.
Susie.
I mean, I get you guys put no entry. I mean, if he's not prepared to rank them,
The three will then be out of a different amount, I guess. Like if it's, how many points possible out of 25, because 5 out of 5, like
you
the
have
the
any
one with the
interest
lowest
in,
number, I mean,
in attributing the other three in some ranked order.
I just feel that it's really out of sort to do this. I hate to be disruptive.
Yeah.
Then figure it out, Bree.
I'll figure out the math.
Yep. Thank you.
Maybe as a compromise, and I know this is coming kind of late in the party, but if we named it Ocean Breeze Park, because when you Google Ocean Breeze, there are some negative connotations with the failed golf course. It is a beautiful name, but it just worries me that people are going to associate it with a failed golf course. What about just having a working name while we're in the process until we meet with the city and find out if they have any other preferences for us. My ranking, actually, this is going to make everything very difficult because I like Coastal Trails and then Ocean Breeze, North Park, Crossroads and Peace Park. Yeah. Coastal Trails, Ocean Breeze, North Park, Crossroads and Peace.
Okay. Park is number 1. Crossroads is number 2. Coastal Trails is number 3. Peace Park is number 4, and Ocean Breeze is number 5. And please don't forget that kind of name those 4 quadrants. So when we're thinking about the development and the future of the park as well, if we do, the east side first, we have the trails at North Park, or the hills at North Park, or the hills at Crossroads, or however it is. And then when the west side is decided upon, or whatever we do with the city, or whatever happens with it, we do have a design for it. We can call it the links at North Park, or the links at Crossroads, and use those 4 quadrants to our advantage in terms of marketing and promotion. And I think my vote for North Park was that it kind of makes it stand out amongst the parks, that no other ones have kind of directional names to them. And the north side of the city doesn't have any parks. And this calls out our park for the north side of the city. So that's why I went with that one.
Interested, even without Commissioner Rollins voting for 3 of them, North Park still had the winning number here. It's like a golf score, the lowest number. So even if I put zeros in for him on those, North Park still has 8. And then it would probably be Ocean Breeze. And then Coastal Trails, Crossroads, it would go that way. But North Park is 8, so that's the one.
If the intent of the board is to approve North Park as the name for the park, or a tentative name for the park, I mean, I would suggest a motion would be in order.
Okay. I mean, as a chair, I can make a motion.
You can.
Okay, any further discussion on this? Nope. Go ahead.
Commissioner Ernst? Commissioner Engel? Yes. Commissioner Rollins? Commissioner Vogelsang?
Hate me. No.
And Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-2.
Hey, Craig, approval of payroll and invoices.
A motion for approval of payroll and invoices in the amount of $1,422,305.98.
Second.
Commissioner Ernst?
Yes.
Commissioner Engel? Yes. Commissioner Rollins?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, reports and discussion items. Yeah.
Commissioners, just a reminder, at our next meeting, we need to set the tentative millage rate. We'll also start talking about the budget. I think I've met with all of you, most of you, or I have meetings set up with you. An update on the pipes and pumping project. The punch list is being worked on, and final site restoration is scheduled to be done this week. All contract work is estimated to be completed in August. They're still doing the water quality testing, and they're still working on some options to control the turbidity and dissolved oxygen levels. And then as far as the tower project at Gumbo Limbo, we all expected that to just be shovels in the ground on July 3rd, but crews started clearing the invasives at the site. They're working with permitting and environmental so that they can clear enough space for the crane to get in there. But it has started. It's in the works. It's just gonna work its way through that process. And that's all I have.
Full council.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have nothing additional for the board this evening. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Craig, do you have anything? Have anything?
Are are you talking to me?
Any reports or discussion items?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, a couple of things. First, I just want to let everybody know, if they don't know, they don't already know, that we have gotten, the district has gotten a ton of positive publicity over Jordan Ogman and the conversion of Pirates Cove. There have been articles, front page articles in the Sun Sentinel and in the Post, as well as reporting on the ABC and NBC outlets here in Palm Beach County. So it's been, aside from the fact that it's a great thing to do, it's been a very positive thing for the district. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. We're doing something good and it's being recognized, and I think that's great. The other thing that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention, and I think this is something that we need to set a policy on, and it's something that's been overlooked for years. There's a part of our enabling legislation, parts 157, paragraphs 157 through 163, which reads, commissioners shall receive a compensation for attendance at a meeting of the board or a meeting attended by any commissioner at which the purposes, obligations, or business of the district is discussed or transacted. The amount of said compensation shall be equal to the dollar amount set forth in the appropriate section of the Florida statutes as may be amended. In no event shall any commissioner receive compensation for more than one meeting per day. I think what this says, and I've had conversations with our council about this, is that technically all of us could go out, schedule a meeting with members of city staff, members of city council, constituents, and talk about a beach and park district business, and then put in for $80 to cover that meeting, which means if we really wanted to, we could collect $400 a week. All right, and according to this this provision, it's perfectly legal. I don't think it's a great idea to have something like this just sticking out there. I'm not worried about any of the members of the commission right now, but 4 years from now, 8 years from now, 10 years from now, you might get somebody who thinks, well, hey, I'm entitled. All right. Or for any one of a number of reasons. So I think it's important for us to give our council direction in setting a policy governing anything outside of meetings that we have as a commission or joint meetings that we have with the city. I want, this is a loophole as far as I'm concerned. I want to close it. So that's all I got. And I look forward to seeing you guys in person in 2 weeks, because this really stinks this way. But anyway, that's all I got.
Thanks, Steve.
Steve was right. And Steve, thank you for bringing forward that information regarding the all access playground. I think that's just something that, we get busy and overlook, and I appreciate this family bringing it to our attention, and be a great time to run for reelection. But in all seriousness, I think it's just a tremendous thing that we've done for the kids in our community that have, whether they're kids in top soccer or the like that can't access the normal playground. I think it's wonderful, Steve, and thank you for the foresight and for bringing the family to us. Secondly, about a year ago, I got frustrated picking soccer balls out of the canals and at Spanish River, and talked to the city about putting fences up there for us. And I didn't necessarily like I had another design in mind, but this one certainly accomplishes it. I did suggest to Greg at the time that they put a gate in the middle in case balls did go over. But listen, it's such a tremendous improvement over what we had. We don't have the balls going into the parking lot, or my grandson trying to jump the hedge over there to go after a ball. But thank you to Bree, if you'd pass that. Thank you on to Craig. To Steve's notion there years ago, there was some slippage there and one of the predecessors as far as getting compensated to run a check to the bank and some other things where it was pretty loose, and that was slammed. I don't know that that's ever occurred since that time. But if we're going to revisit that, I think that consideration should be given to if the commission gives direction to one of our board members to go to city with Brianne to discuss a matter. I think that's something that might be subject to compensation, because that's outside the normal activities in which we're compensated for. And that's the only thing I'd say. I mean, it's not a bad idea to tighten that up a little bit. Otherwise, it was a wonderful 4th of July, and I hope everybody was safe, and I look forward to getting into the budget process.
When we do the approval of the invoices, if there is something on that invoice, if somebody has put in to, for having lunch with Brianne, or having a phone call with Jacob, or something that we don't feel is appropriate, we don't have to approve that amount. So going into the enabling legislation worries me that we would possibly have other problems through the state, and it would be something that I guess council would have to opine on. I feel like I'm a public servant. I said, okay, $80 a meeting, that's more than enough. And sometimes it's a 15-minute meeting, sometimes it's a couple of hours, but we're doing this to serve the community. And I think now our board is very much on board with that. But like Steve says, somebody in the future, the board just doesn't have to approve that invoice rather than to go into changing the legislation. But Jacob, if you would want to talk about that, we'd like to hear.
Just a couple comments, if I may, Madam Chair, Commissioners, and Commissioner Engel did reach out to us, and we had a conversation along with Brianne earlier this morning. Sam and I both did. This could be accomplished in one of several ways, including amending the legislation. Obviously, is one option going through the legislature. But under Florida law, we also know that this commission gets to interpret its own charter. And when the charter says that commissioners shall receive compensation for attendance at a meeting of the board or a meeting attended by any commissioner, the 5 of you, this commission gets to decide what a meeting means in that context. And if it was the board's intent and we received that direction, we would work with your executive director to bring back a policy which implements that charter provision to better define meeting along the lines of what Commissioner Rollins indicated, where if a member of the commission was directed by a majority of the board to go attend a meeting or perform some function on behalf of the district, that may be a compensatable event. But if it was something that a commissioner did on their own, it may not be equally as entitled to compensation. So if it was the intent of the board, we can work on a policy to bring back for your review, which would embrace those various concepts.
Another thing. Yesterday was Brianne's birthday, so I'd like to wish her a happy birthday, and I'm sure the rest of us feel the same.
And the extra fencing where the kids have to run around, just think of it as extra fitness for them,
Because it turned out to be they did a very nice job. They're high. So unless you really get underneath the soccer ball, it's going to be hard to get over the top of it. And it's going to save a lot of time and a lot of lost balls and for sure. So yeah, it's more than that. Yeah. It's, and in some cases it's with the adults, it's $90 to $100 a ball. So But anyway, Brian, please extend our thanks and to Greg for having accomplished that. Thank you.
Ethan?
If I could just clarify, is it the will and intent of the board for us to bring back a policy to that effect? I just want to make sure we have clear direction there.
Not at the next meeting because I'm going to be on vacation.
It would
so-
not, I know it would not be at the next
Okay.
meeting, and what I'm seeing with Commissioner Ernst shaking his head, it may not be a unanimous consent. But if that is the intent, we will work on a policy.
My 2 cents on that topic is, while it may be a loophole, I think we've all accepted the role as a community servant. And I'm not sure time or money spent by council developing a policy is one, necessary, two, really enforceable, because the overall arching guideline is our enabling legislation, which does need to be updated. And I'd probably put that in the bucket of when it's time and opportunity to update the enabling legislation, that's when it should be addressed. But right now, it's not a problem. And why spend time and resources on it? That's my 2 cents.
Like Susie's comment, we can always refuse to authorize that charge if somebody submits it and we have tremendous oversight with our treasurer. So I'm sure that he's watching every nickel that comes through there. So I'm good with not addressing it. I go along with Craig.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I wasn't worried about any of us putting in for lunch with Brianne or Melissa or anything like that. Actually, what I was looking at was a mechanism for directing Aaron, for example, to pursue a meeting with the mayor or a member of city staff and have Aaron, or if it's another member of the commission, get compensated for that, but only that. This is something, yeah, as far as the 5 of us are concerned, I have no worries. Okay. I don't know what's going to happen down the road. And I don't want to be in a position, I don't want the commission to be in a position of having to be reactive rather than proactive. I would rather be proactive. Whether or not we give this a high priority, we don't have to give this a high priority right now. But it's something that definitely should be looked at and should be worked on however we want to do it. If we want to put this off till after budget, I'm fine with that. If we want to put this off until our next session in in 2024, I'm fine with that. But I think it's something that has to be addressed sooner or later. And I don't want to be in have the board be in a position where it's got to be addressed after the fact. Even if we have the right to disapprove, there could come a time where somebody says, well, here's my justification. I want this money. It's a matter of principle. And then who knows where it goes from there. I want our policy to be clear.
Maybe, Brianne, as a compromise, I guess a good way of doing it is, yes, annually, we should look at all policies as opposed to kind of one-offing them. And maybe in the December period, that would be a good thing to, an update to that policy or any other policies. And we include it in kind of that list of things that we will take care of as we go on.
Ugh. I think that's I think that we've documented and if we can make a note of this for future reference, that the commission has discussed this and we adhere to the current principles of reimbursing for only those specified things in the in our enabling legislation. I don't think we need to we have enough projects on our own without having to dig into some other projects that are non-existent. I don't want to create a problem where none exist and having to spend time and effort in trying to develop a different policy. By the mere fact that we're talking about this, I think it's evident what our position would be. And if we ever had anybody in the future that thought otherwise, I think we just refer back to this meeting as documentation that we've discussed it, and we would not want to change any of the way that we're doing business right now. Period.
Okay. Steve, okay with that? Yes, yes. Okay. Okay, future agenda item.
We're going to have some projects coming forth at the next meeting, and then we need to start talking about the budget. So that'll be on the agenda and a tentative millage rate. That's all. That's enough.
Right? Somebody else?
Move to
There we go.
adjourn.
Okay. Okay,
Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright.
motion passes. We are adjourned.